Wes Streeting has now gone on record to say that the Labour Party is in more talks with other members of the Conservative Party who wish to defect. He says, I think they're very powerful message carriers, but they have defected with a purpose, not one of personal ambition. And I think people should take that message seriously. These are people, as we now see today, Natalie Elphicke isn't going to keep her seat, having gone over to Labour. So it's not a way of saving her majority. It's falling on her own sword. That's positive. It would be great if that message had come out when she defected, but it hasn't. It's had to trickle out. Maybe she was still negotiating a deal. But certainly Dan Poulter made it the principal element of his message, and that was very, very noble, very forthright. And of course, the plan here is to demonstrate that if an MP can cross from the Conservatives to Labour, so can an ordinary voter. And Jeremy Hunt, he's been very quiet for a while, hasn't he? The master of spoonerism. Jeremy Hunt has said that a lot of Conservative MPs are, quote, losing their nerve because of the gap in the polls. Labour now has a 30% lead over the Conservatives, according to the most recent YouGov polls, and the biggest lead since Liz Truss was Prime Minister, if you can remember that tiny month of mishap. The problem with the Conservative Party is people have always retreated to the Conservatives because they feel that the Conservatives are safe. No matter, even if some of the policies are not desirable, there's a sense that the economy is safe and the country is safe. But Liz Truss scuppered that idea completely. And even if Rishi Sunak manages to claw back the idea of financial responsibility, he cannot erase the presence of Liz Truss while she remains in the chamber, while she remains wittering on in the sidelines and trying to take a central role as the leader of the Tufty squad. As long as she does that, if she cannot be persuaded to shut up, the Conservatives are doomed. So I don't think it's just the Rwanda plan which dooms the Conservatives. I think it's also Liz Truss. And probably Liz Truss is the greater problem. Liz Truss, who I have mocked continually for her inability to be able to present a sentence without waving her hands, flapping her hands around like some malignant marionette, but also her devotion to Kwasi Kwarteng's prodigious package until she realised that was pointing in the wrong direction. Once she realised that, she was only too happy to chop it off and say, we're going to try something else. It's her inability, it's her inconsistency, her disloyalty, which is so present at the moment. If she were loyal to the Conservative brand, then she would shut up. But she's not, because she doesn't understand the concept of loyalty in exactly the same way as she didn't understand the concept of leadership. The concept of leadership is about listening. The concept of loyalty is about listening. Liz Truss doesn't do that. She doesn't listen to her advisors. She doesn't listen to common sense. But everybody else listens to Liz Truss. And everybody else looks on Liz Truss and despairs. Liz Truss, history will record Liz Truss as being the person who destroyed the Conservative Party. It could well be facing an extinction event. And that, of course, is why people like Dominic Cummings are coming up with their own party, the Nonsense Party, the Stuck-Up Party, the Stick-To Party, whatever he's calling it now. It doesn't make any difference. It's just reform by another name. And it's exactly why it's impossible to tell the difference between reform and reclaim, because these are all pseudo-right parties that are trying to fill the gap created by the difference between rhetoric and reality in the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party, the rump of the Conservative Party, is still One Nation Tories. But the vocal part of the Conservative Party clearly wants to leave. And they're not going to do that before the next election. And because they're not going to do that because they think that they can take over the Conservative Party, they will ruin the Conservative Party. They will ruin the next opposition. And that will be a catastrophe for British politics. We've already seen how a poor opposition seriously damages our democracy. Now we're in a position where we know, even before the next election, that the opposition will be catastrophic, that the opposition will be emasculated to think back to Liz Truss. It will be emasculated because of Liz Truss, because of Theresa May's hostile environment, because of the obsession with slogans. And incidentally, somebody pointed out that I posted a slogan from the European Union. Yes, I don't mind slogans on posters. I don't mind that at all. That's what advertising is for. Produce a good slogan, a nice pithy statement. But that's not what politicians are expected to be saying in answer to questions. In answer to questions, we expect a politician to give an informed, thoughtful, and considered response, not to simply reach for the handbook of the PR handbook and look down the list to see what slogan is most suited for a response. That isn't politics. That's puppeteering. If you want to know about puppeteering, go and talk to Liz Truss.